Right, so it's been a minute. I just haven't had really anything to make videos on. I have been, I have been active more or less over on Twitch, a bit more so than over here. Mainly because just the heat wave, man. It's just genuinely, I just it's been too hot to think. Nevertheless, film, but we're here. It's starting to cool down a little bit, so the filming will be resuming back to a fairly more consistent basis. I do apologise for the lack of videos recently, but you know, without further ado, just gonna jump straight into this one. And today we're gonna be talking about finally got it done, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, and this is great. This is easily, I think, one of my favourite reads of the year so far. And I think it's going to take a lot to knock this off. It's not my favourite of the year, and I have seen people doing their like mid-year freak out videos, and I wanted to kind of jump on that. That'll probably be the next video that I do, but I've seen people do that, and I want to jump on that as well. But we've got this finished, so I'm doing my review on this first. Like I said, I really enjoyed this one. The quick, brief, non-spoiler overview of this book. Obviously, the reason why I picked this up initially is because, you know, I watched the film back in apparently March now. I thought it was February. It was March. And I freaking loved the film. I would say that as far as like adapting this into a movie, very little was actually changed. There's a few flashbacks that aren't in the film, but I don't think anything drastically changes the character. If anything, in the book, it does develop Strat a little bit more, so that the ending doesn't quite come out of left field as much as it does in the film. But outside of that, nothing else is really changed, and all of the stuff in the spaceship, all of the stuff in space, is pretty much exactly the same. So your Cliff Note non-spoiler stuff is, and I guess I can talk about a specific thing that people were saying was a spoiler in the trailer, but in the trailer for the film. But it's in the trailer for the film, so I guess it's fair dues here. We follow Ryland Grace, who wakes up on a spaceship with essentially amnesia. And, you know, we're going through this, and while we're flipping back between the events leading up to how did Ryland Grace get into space, and we're interspersing those in between Ryland Grace in space, trying to figure out why he's there, and then trying to figure out how to fix this problem. And the reason why he's in space is essentially space bacteria or space parasites are eating the sun. And scientists on Earth have discovered that a team of scientists need to go to Tau Ceti, which is a star that isn't attracting these parasites, and they need to basically find out why. So that is essentially Ryland Grace's journey in this. He's floating through space, trying to get to Tau Ceti. He wakes up and the rest of his team is dead. He's the sole survivor. And midway through the journey, he meets a like rock alien thing that he names Rocky. And the bulk of the book is those two developing a friendship, a relationship. Multiple things happen throughout the book where the two end up saving each other's lives respectively, and a friendship is formed, a bond is formed, and it all culminates into an emotional ending where Ryland Grace has to decide whether he even wants to go back. There isn't really anything that I disliked about this. There's not a lot of things that I disliked about this. We spend a lot of time in the book before Rocky is introduced, and I guess that is why people were saying it's a bit of a spoiler showing off Rocky in the trailers for the film. And I completely get that now reading this. We actually are like almost a quarter of the way into the book before we're introduced to Rocky, and then even then a few more chapters before him and Ryland Grace actually meet. There is a lot of hard science in this. I feel like most of it is digestible and most of it is easy to follow, even for someone like me who isn't a science person, who's relatively stupid, to be honest. I felt like the hard science that's in this is made relatively easy to understand. I think that comes at a bit of a cost to character development. Like, we get a lot of it backloaded. I feel like most of this book is describing the science of the ship, the science of the planets, the science of the astrophage, which is this, what they end up calling this space parasite. A lot of this is deep in the science. I feel like if it didn't go deep into the science, the book wouldn't work. And we don't necessarily need a deep. We don't really need that much development on Ryland Grace outside of. Ryland Grace doesn't really change throughout the book. He becomes he goes from, but his change isn't necessarily going from something at the start of the book to something different at the end of the book. Where Ryland Grace is at the start, or the decisions that he makes at the start, because the reveal of how Ryland Grace got on this ship in the first place, because that reveal is right at the end, we don't feel the character arc of going from someone who's scared to die and doesn't want to someone who's completely okay with making the ultimate sacrifice. We don't really, or I didn't necessarily get that from the book, because the reveal of that, and the reveal that Ryland Grace didn't necessarily go on this space journey voluntarily, because that reveal isn't until the closing chapters of the book. We have basically followed a character that has already gone through his arc, I guess the arc could be like him learning to have a friend, and him learning to not necessarily sacrifice himself for selfish reasons, but to sacrifice himself for someone else. And that's, I guess, the core. But I feel like the book is less interested in... it's weird. The book is less interested in making the characters and just having them be a service to the science. That's kind of how I felt in this necessarily. Like, we have moments where it should be high drama and should be high octane, and maybe that's not the point. In fact, that's definitely not the point. But it does feel like in those moments, like, something happens to Rocky, which if you've seen the film you know, but I'm not going to spoil it here. But something happens to Rocky, and after that moment, I feel like there should be a lot more... There should be, like, forward momentum from that point. And we then go into a whole chapter explaining more, like, deep science. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just kind of everything else that I've read has been very like action focused. I've read a lot of like I've read predominantly fantasy and you know, a little bit of Warhammer up to this point. So something that is like so slow, and something that is like taking a lot of time to explain everything, and explain everything in the most minute detail, and explain everything to then understand why the things go wrong at the end, to then inform why the characters make the decisions they do. That it's just different. I'm not saying necessarily a good thing, necessarily a bad thing. What I will say is both this and the film I will highly recommend. I don't think either one is necessarily better than the other. I think taking out some of the flashbacks gives the film a bit better pacing, and the characters do end up becoming more likable, because the film, I think the film is more about the strength of the characters. Like I said, all you really get out of this book, when it comes to Ryland Grace, who is the only character you really spend time with for a majority of the book, is that he's a nice guy that's fairly accepting, to the point where he's straight up calling Rocky a person from Jump, which, you know, is a big thing. It doesn't seem like a big thing, and a lot of people might overlook it, but, you know, Ryland Grace is the kind of guy to look at a rock with 5 arms and just be like, that's a person, because it's an intelligent human being having a conversation with him. You know, with how much division is in the world, a character like Ryland Grace just being like, yeah, that's a person because they're engaging in conversation with me, is refreshing. It's really refreshing. And, you know, having something where, you know, a lot of the media that I've watched recently has been like showing you why humanity is so bad, and showing us and trying to show the downward spiral and the course that we're kind of going down. Something like this that is just a nice guy making the ultimate sacrifice not necessarily being put in a situation that he wants to be in, but someone that is, you know, and even coming down to two species just getting on, you know, something like that. The book is kind of described in one of the the Times said that this is life affirming, and I'm one to agree, because it's just, you know, there's no character drama, there's no real point in the book where, you know, the drama comes from things going wrong in the ship, and from like the science of it all, and the drama comes from being able to know if they get home or not. There's no drama in the characters outside of stuff in flashbacks, and the stuff in flashbacks doesn't really matter. What matters is that, you know, these two species coexist, and they coexist pretty much from jump. There's obviously a language barrier that we get over really quickly, through really easy means, or you know, easy in the grand scheme of things. But that is really about it. There's not a huge, like, there isn't that like third act moment where there's a big bust up between the two lead characters, and that's really refreshing. It's really refreshing to have that. And, you know, like I said, or like, you know, the book is genuinely funny at moments, you know, more towards the beginning, but Ryland Grace is just a likable, funny guy, and his banter with Rocky is really fun. So yeah, I really enjoyed Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I highly recommend it to anyone that is interested in this, especially if you liked the film. I would say the film is a lateral move. It's not worse than the book, it's not better than the book. It's about the same. It's about the same. I don't usually rate books on a numerical scale. However, if I were one to do that, I would give this an 8.5. It's a high recommend. Really, really good. And I think it's a really good palate cleanser read, because as much as the science stuff is a lot, it's made really digestible, and it's made really easy to understand. And like I said, there's not much in the way of character drama. It's just watch these two people make a friendship and banter off each other for about 300 pages. Yeah, I can't really recommend Project Hail Mary enough. I don't think I would struggle to find someone who wouldn't enjoy Project Hail Mary. I would struggle to find someone who wouldn't enjoy it. to be honest. But yeah, that is it for today's video. If you're interested in what I'm going to be picking up next, I'm going to be doing the next 3 volumes of One Piece. So that is 10, 11, and 12. And yeah, from that, I think I might jump into the Bloodsworn saga. I know I said I was gonna do what the fuck is it? Wistful Ascending afterwards. But because that's a one and done, and the Bloodsworn Saga is a trilogy, and also I've had that sitting on the shelf for a year, I've got to get to it at some point, and that is the one that I really want to get to. That I've been wanting to get to since pretty much I got it. Oh, fuck's sake. Frickin' hay fever. I apologise. But yeah, that's... the Bloodsworn Saga is what I'm going to be getting to next. Especially because John Gwynne has a new book coming out at the end of the year. So I want to get a taste of Gwynne's writing before... to see if that at the end of the year is one that I'm going to be interested in. And, you know, being a fantasy guy, being a lover of dragons and all things big animals, and like epic fantasy, I think I'm the target audience for that. You know, the front cover of the first book in the Bloodsworn Saga is just a massive dragon. So, yeah, I think I'm gonna fall in love with that series. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this one. I will see you guys in the next one. Yeah, I'll see you guys then. Peace.